Hey friends, happy Wednesday. It is August 21st today. And as some of you, maybe many of you know, this past weekend on the 17th, new rules officially went into effect surrounding how real estate has to be done now by real estate professionals. So I'm sure you guys are so sick of agents talking about this, but I want to go over some myths that I keep seeing over and over and explain how it actually works, and just kind of calm some fears for you guys. So we're going to go over 3 myths that are related to buyers in this new way of doing real estate. It's not that different, so we don't need to freak out. But first one is that essentially what happened was an attempt to decouple commission. So, which is weird because it depends on the state. Tennessee still technically kind of does it in the listing. But essentially, what used to be common, there's no standard, this was never required, but what we saw often was that the listing agent would take their percent of commission, and then they would offer a portion of that commission to a buyer's agent. So it was argued that sellers maybe weren't well informed that a portion of it was going to the buyer's agent, or they felt like they were paying for someone else's representation or what have you. Really, I think a lot of that boils down to technicalities and how well you explain your paperwork. But so now it's separate. Strangely enough, the Tennessee contract is still written the way it used to be, but it's just really, really blatant that you don't have to have any portion of it go to the buyer's side. Whereas Georgia and Alabama, they're 2 entirely separate lines now. But all of that is to say that it's not a guarantee that buyer's agent commission is going to be offered by the seller or the seller's agent. That has always been the case. But it's also no longer listed in the MLS. So when we're showing a property, we don't know if there's any being offered or if we're going to have to work that out on the back end, which honestly is fine. So the biggest myth I'm seeing out of this is that sellers aren't going to pay it and buyers are going to have to come out of pocket for their buyer's agent commission. And you're buying a house, you have your down, most of the time, your down payment, your closing costs, and now your buyer's agent commission. That all adds up pretty fast. I have yet to see that happen. I'm sure there's a case where it might. But I mean, when the market was crazy, we also had buyers paying for sellers moving trucks and offering vacations and all kinds of crazy stuff. It is really dependent on the market. But the first one is that buyers are going to have to pay this commission out of pocket. That is not necessarily true. Your agent can call the listing agent and see if there's any commission offered. If there's not a set amount, or they say it's dependent on the offer, or they say there isn't any, cool. Guess what? If you don't have the cash, you're going to have your agent write that in the offer and ask the seller for it anyway. And 9 times out of 10, if you're the only offer, they'll probably do it. It has always been this way with for sale by owners. It has been this way a long time in commercial. It really is only new to residential real estate agents who only look at homes on the MLS. So most of us have dealt with this before. The difference is now it's every house. What we did recently, just funny because this one wasn't for sale by owner, they decided that for principal, they didn't want to pay buyer's agent commission. Okay, well, we still got them to pay half of it because our offer was good enough. And we also got them to pay all of my clients' closing costs. So That's not coming out of pocket now. You can move numbers around. It doesn't have to specifically be that. If you need X dollars and they don't want to pay the buyer's agent, see if they'll pay some of your closing costs. It's the same money. It's the same. It's fine. But yeah, and that's the only one where the buyers had to pay it since this has started, at least for me. So don't let it freak you out. It doesn't necessarily mean you need to come out of pocket. We get paid to negotiate for a reason. Which brings me to my second point, and that is thinking that you will save money if you just don't have a buyer's agent and you go straight to the listing agent. No. I understand that thought process because it's a line item that's not there either for you or the seller, that in theory would save money. But I've been doing this long enough to let y'all know, if you are unrepresented or you have a very uneducated agent, you are losing so much money to that agent who knows what they're doing. So much money. First of all, again, if it happens to be like Tennessee or however it is, and in other states, you can still put this in. If it happens to be where the seller has already decided to offer that commission, if you go straight to the listing agent, it's possible the listing agent is just pocketing both sides. That's possible. The other thing is, even if you're saving that amount, what are you losing? Are you getting all the closing costs that you could have out of the seller? Are you getting the repairs that are needed? You know, there's just so much that goes into it, and coming into it against someone who literally does this all day, every day. I hate this analogy because it's not the same and people use it way too much, but literally it, in some respects, it is the same thing as representing yourself in court against an attorney who has been doing this for years. And it's what they do all day, every day. They know all the laws. They know the books. They know the judges. Why would you do that? It's the exact same thing in a home purchase. I'm going to know the best way to structure something so it looks good to the other party, even if it's benefiting my client a little bit more. But it's going to look good. Like I just said, they didn't want to pay buyer's agent commission. Cool. We asked for the same money somewhere else and we got it. That will happen to you if you don't have representation. Third one is that you have to commit to an agent to get in a door, because now we all have to have form signs to legally be allowed to open a door, which pros and cons. So first of all, no, but also you should. So best practice when you are thinking about purchasing a home or a property of any kind is to interview your agent. If you already know who you're working with, awesome. Sit down, do a full buyer's consultation with them so they can fully understand your needs, where you are in the process, what you need help with, and go from there so that it will be as streamlined of a process as possible. If you aren't sure who you want to use, do that buyer's consultation with a couple of agents, and then you'll be able to figure out who you want to work with and sign your paperwork. And then whatever house you want to get into, cool, you're done. You did it the right way. Now, Kelly, what about the times when we're really not looking to buy a house, but there's just this perfect house that pops up and we really want to go see it, but I don't want to be committed to a random agent I call on Zillow or the listing agent or my neighbor 2 doors down who I really don't know, but I know is an agent? What do I do? Well, a couple things. You don't have to commit to an agent for them to open a door. Some of them are going to require that, and that's okay. That's their right. They don't want to work for free or waste their time, and that's fair, right? But I had this situation happen last night. It's one of my listings. I had someone call the sign and say, hey, we want to see this house. Okay, cool. Well, I already know they're probably not going to sign a buyer's rep with me because they don't know me. They just called to sign. And then also, what if they do like this house? They know I'm representing the seller. So, very simple. Hey, Mr. Buyer, thank you so much for calling about this home that I have listed. I don't know if you saw the recent changes, but we are required by law now to have you sign an agreement before I can legally open the door. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and bring that paper with me. I know it's going to be a little bit weird, but we can sign it in the driveway. If you prefer, I send it to you in email ahead of time and you can electronically sign. That's an option too. But I'm going to bring this document that outlines how commission works if you go ahead and purchase this house. On this one, the seller is offering commission, so you would not be out of pocket at all. And gives you the right to, be unrepresented because I, as the listing agent, am showing you this home. If you decide you want representation, we can go ahead and talk about that before you sign this. But I'm going to bring it and I'm going to make it specific to this home. And it's going to note that you would not owe anything out of pocket if you were to purchase this home because there is commission offered. Does all of that sound good? Yeah. Okay, cool. And guess what? I brought the form. It was specific to the house. It explained that the commission was being paid by the seller, and they signed it, and I showed the home, and then we're good. And then if they want to see something later, they know they can call me. They know they don't have to. It's that simple. It really, people are making this crazy, and it doesn't need to be. So if you guys really are, and I'm not going to say an easy process because, again, I like transparency. The paperwork to buy a house sucks. The stress, not great. Actually moving, the worst part. It is not all rainbows and sunshine, but it is very exciting. And it doesn't have to be like pulling teeth. We can make it as easy as possible. So if you guys have any questions, if you want to go see something, I, at this point, am keeping blank forms for all 3 states in my car so that if someone calls me last minute, wants to see something, and I don't have time to send it for an email signature, we can still go. It's fine. But again, if you are really serious, we need to be doing a buyer's consultation. But as always, here for solutions, not complaints. And if you guys have any questions, I'm always happy to help, and I will see you next week.